today you'll be receiving from a message full of God's power to help you become everything that God has created you to be. You know, God sent his son, Jesus, to die for you to have a life of abundance and for you to be an ambassador for him. What does that mean? That your life should represent his goodness. It's time to be about it. Tune in today's message and you'll be blessed.
Ephesians chapter 6. Verse 10 says this, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord. Somebody say, be strong in the Lord. Come on, say it again. Say, be strong in the Lord. Okay, so I want y'all to get your guns out or lack thereof. Come on, get your little arm up. Get you. Look at somebody else and say, be strong in the Lord. Okay, y'all can do a little bit better than that. Now, y'all not going to leave me hanging this morning. I'm going to need all your help this morning. Y'all ready to help me get through this morning? Find somebody else and give me a good pose. Look at somebody else and say, come on now, be strong in the Lord. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Not your might, his might. I want to jump down to verse 16, and it says, above all. Now, if you're reading, I'm going to jump through some of this. I encourage you, it's always a good idea to read the full passages. Take notes, go home and read through it. Amen. We don't have to do all the work for you up here. Amen. Above all, he says, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one. Now, the interesting thing is when he says above all, if you actually study that out in the Greek, what that means is out front, covering all. Now, if you know, my husband is a huge Marvel fan, and so there is just all kind of Captain America and everybody else around my house, all over the place, T-shirts, the whole nine. Even my son wears like little Hulk clothes and all this kind of stuff. Like, that is green. Okay. So anyway, but you know, when you look at some of the superheroes of today, and like particularly Captain America, and his shield is like a circular shield. We actually went to Greenfield Village or Henry Ford Museum and saw the actual Marvel Museum. And they had a lot of their little pieces and their elements from the Black Panther and different things they wore in these movies for display. And I noticed how small the shield was. It was just a circle. So you got to be like, you know, you got to know where it's coming from. But that's not what he's talking about here. Back in biblical times, the shields, now if you want to go back historically, those of you who are going to go to Israel with us in the fall, you will see that when you look into some of these biblical old-time places, you get to see some of these cities, how small everything was. Men were a lot smaller than they are now for multiple reasons. But anyway, we're not going to get into that. But their shields were out front, and they were covering the whole body. So what he's saying above all, he's saying make sure that you have your shield out front. That shield that's not a Captain American shield, but that is a shield that is big and custom to cover from your head to your toe. Why does it say that? It says so that you may be able to withstand all the fiery darts of the wicked. Now, this is a new splash for some of you, and for some of you, you're like you're preaching to the choir. Notice here that it is a shield of faith that is enabling you to be able to survive and dart all of the fiery darts of the enemy. Flip over to 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. God has given us enough faith, each one of us, to make sure that we are covered from head to toe. Above all, out front, what you ought to have is your faith. The Bible talks about faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God, which is why it's so important, and I'm laying a foundation here until I get to where we're going. Why it's so important that we gather together more in these last days. You know, you have so many people who, the church is not a priority. Hearing the word is not a priority. You'll stand in line for a Jay-Z concert, but if the doors are not open right when you want them to be at church, you're moving on. Or, you'll find many people are just, will be up, got the popcorn pop for their favorite show or whatever they watching. I'm hearing the first lights on or whatever you watching, and be sitting there laid out. But yet when it comes time to hear from God, we prioritize that last. Well, the Bible talks about faith cometh by hearing and hearing by the word of God. If you don't constantly hear the word, then you won't have the faith that you need, which means your shield will not be out front. And fiery darts are flying. Satan is trying to do his best to take you down. But this is why it's important for you to have your shield out front. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 17 says this. He's saying, But we, brethren, being taken from you for a short time in presence, not in heart, endeavoring the more abundantly to see your face with great desire. Here's Paul, he's talking to this church here, and he's telling us what he wants to do. He's saying, listen, I'm endeavoring more abundantly, meaning this is what I really want to do. I want to see your face, your face. My great desire is to be with you. This is what Paul's intentions are. But then verse 18, he goes on to say something very profound here. He said, wherefore we would have come unto you, even I, Paul, once and again, but Satan hindered us. So he's basically saying here, he was like, hey, listen, my intention was to be with you all the time. I want to see you face to face all the time. But he's saying, but Satan hindered us. That word hinder, if you study that out, it describes a person who was on a trip going somewhere, but they ran into a problem that no longer let them be able to go the direction they were trying to go. In other words, it's something that can cause a change of course, or something that can be in situation where, like if you're talking about a race and someone is running in the race, or if someone is back in the day we were little, we used to go karting all the time, and we used to race on these go-kart tracks. And I don't know what it was, my brother always knew how to pick the fastest race car on the track. So he was always winning. So, I had to stop that because he was getting a big head. And for the good of humanity, I needed to humble him. So, I would just make sure to get the heftiest go-kart. And sometimes the only way I could beat him was to ram him off the track. If I could just push him, if I could just get to the back of his wheel enough and then turn into the back of his wheel, it would spin his car, and then he would be headed right into they had little bumpers with the little tires behind him. He'd be over there yelling at me while I'd be crossing the finish line like, dun, 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 right? But this is what he's talking about here. He's talking about, when he's using that word hindered, something or obstacle or a situation or circumstance getting in the way and pushing you out of your race.
I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I want to invite you to subscribe, as well as visit our website at michelleferguson.org. We have some materials there that can help you as you walk through life, live the life that God created for you. As always, I'm Michelle Ferguson, helping you to discover, develop, and celebrate who God has created you to be. See you next time.